It's not an official part of a senator's job to eat, sleep, have relationships, buy groceries, wash clothes, lube the car, get dressed, grow as a person, or feed the dog. What are senators?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Senators are part of the legislative branch. They make the laws.
The U.S. Senate was established in 1789. In its entire 218-year history, less than 2% of the 1,875 Americans serving there have been women. What's your name?
My name is Reece Lincoln.
Where do you live?
Arlington, Virginia, and Arkansas, and Little Rock.
Why do you live in so many places?
Because my mom's a senator. Are you gonna eat that egg?
Yeah, I got your eggs right here.
Oh.
How many senators do you think should be women?
Half? Half. Yeah. I agree with Jasmine. There should be half. Just like they are on the street, half and half. That just seems fair to me.
In January of 1992, there were 2 women in the U.S. Senate. By January 2006, there were 14. Who are they?
We, the women in the Senate, feel that is what our obligation is. We seek it to make a difference in the lives of other people. And that's why we are here.
They've got all these ads on radio. It's just unbelievable.
As a federal employee, what percentage less would my premiums be than my sister who is self-employed?
Did you get the changes that I made to...
We changed the veterans, and then you only had a few.
I just got back last night. I was told.
Our injuries have been caught up, you know.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
When I was going to school, the boys got the honor of being the safety patrol. And so I said, why can only boys be on the safety patrol? And the principal, bless his heart, said, well, there's no reason why a girl can't do safety patrol.
I'm coming. I'm so sorry to be late.
I am a farmer's daughter from East Arkansas, and I am so proud of it. And Dad used to tell us, he said, I don't ever want to hear a single one of you children complaining about something you're not willing to work hard to change and make better.
That was good, honey. Good work. We were in the middle of a raging war. We were in the middle of a real debate over women's rights. And my work that I had chosen up to that point was to be a stockbroker. And it lost all meaning for me. It lost all meaning. What changed my life was when I had children.
For a senator from a state that's virtually been devastated, at least the southern part of it, my complete focus needs to be on rebuilding housing, school systems, healthcare systems.
Surely in America, we can have a system that works.
It's a very difficult job. There's a lot of, slings and arrows.
You have to know that you're fighting for people or for causes that are really important to you.
Without further ado, let me introduce Senator Hillary Clinton. Thank you.
When I tell my party leadership, I said, well, you can't blame me. I said, this is the way I grew up in Maine. I mean, that's why we're naturally independent. And people appreciate, respect independence because it reflects, in their view, that you give thought to the issue.
So, anyway, that's...
Government's not them, it's us. And I think that's so important because we all have a stake in it, whether we're paying attention or not.
One thing that I think has been good for my kids
is they see that I actually have more homework than they do. So when they're whining that they have a report to do, they don't get any sympathy from me, and I say, come downstairs and sit next to me while I'm doing my work, and we kind of do side by side.
No different than the person who works as a clerk in a grocery store. You have days where you go, oh my gosh, I can't do this, and you have days where everything seems to work right, and you just keep going.
And if it isn't right, I'll stand up and filibuster. It's not a bipartisan bill.
People have never really, I think, fully understood I'm not a quitter. I don't quit.
Just because you get tackled doesn't mean that you get out of the game. When you get tackled, brush yourself off, put that lipstick on. You can go anywhere with lipstick and friends, volunteers, and of course your family.
My father's a World War II veteran who earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. That kind of commitment inspires me. Because I'm doing those Katrina investigations, I have had nonstop hearings every day this week, and now I've got to fly to Maine for the weekend.
You don't mind? Okay. I found that as I ran for the Senate, many women who've never been involved in politics from that whole spectrum were stepping up to help. They wanted to see a woman elected from North Carolina. That had never happened before.
What unites us is what gives us strength. I think women are setting an example. I think they're setting an example for laying the issues out there, working together in a collaborative fashion to get things done.
Make yourself comfortable, and we'll get the mic in the right position.
How about that?
We'll get you framed up.
Okay, framed up. It's the only time we agree to being framed. Well, I grew up in an ethnic neighborhood in Baltimore, Polish and Italian and German and Greek. And my father and mother had a little neighborhood grocery store. Every morning, my father would open up that store with a great big smile. He would say, "Good morning, can I help you?" And you know what? That's the values I grew up with. Listening to people, seeing how you could be of help. My father always extended credit, always extended a helping hand. And even little things, like if a senior citizen couldn't get out, he would put groceries in a little red wagon and say, "Go deliver these, Barb." And that's the way I was raised. That's why I went into social work. And now I went into politics because that's social work with power.
I think so often today, young women take for granted all the rights and opportunities that are available, not realizing that it wasn't so long ago they weren't here.
I say a big thank you to the women who really fought for women's equality. They gave me the ability in my late 20s, early 30s to even think that way.
I think it was in about junior high that I had an interest in politics and thought that after graduation I would come to Washington. But instead, I got married to somebody who was involved in politics. And then 3 years later, he was killed in a car accident, and he was serving the state legislature at that time. And so I ran for his position in the state legislature. When I lost my husband, I recognized the impact it has individually, but also as a woman. The fact that you've lost this key person in your life, and then I started to think about other women, and if they had children, how do they continue? It was from that moment of loss that really triggered and inspired me to think about what I could do to contribute.
The most important role model for me was former Maine Senator Margaret Chase Smith. I came to Washington, and she spent nearly 2 hours talking with me in her private office. I was so proud she was my senator, and I remember thinking that women could do anything. And back in 1971, we didn't realize that.
We are the women that our parents warned us about, and we are proud.
All the movements of American history have influenced me. I consider myself a very lucky person being born an American. We have tremendous opportunities, but it is only because of everything that's gone before. because of the civil rights movement and the women's movement. Many of the external barriers have been torn down, and I think that's great because individual human freedom and the opportunity to chart your own course is a great gift that America has given to me and to countless millions other people as well.
Before, like in the 1800s, women didn't have any rights at all.
It wasn't fair for the men to have more rights than women because they were all human beings.
144 years after the Declaration of Independence established the equality of all men, women finally got the vote.
When I arrived in the Senate in 1987, there was only one other woman in the Senate, Senator Nancy Kassebaum, a wonderful senator and someone who really reached out to me. But there were no more women in the Senate until 1992, the famous Year of the Woman, the Anita Hill debacle, when we got a spectacular number of women.
I think I speak for all of us. We got in the United States Senate because we were mad. I got mad many years ago when I was just a preschool teacher, when my own state legislature decided to eliminate funding for a preschool program, and I didn't know anything about politics. And I put my two little kids in my car and I drove 100 miles to the state capitol, walked in and said, "Who do I talk to?" And finally this legislator looked at me and he said, "You know, you can't make a difference. You're just a mom in tennis shoes." Oh, I was mad. Certainly Anita Hill inspired me to run. I saw what the U.S. Senate looked like, and I knew that if we wanted our nation to have a new direction, we needed people back there who were going to take it in that direction.
In 1991, then-President George Bush nominated Clarence Thomas as a candidate for Supreme Court Justice. He was a controversial choice from the beginning, and events took a dramatic turn when Anita Hill, a law professor, came forward with accusations that Mr. Thomas had sexually harassed her when she worked for him years earlier.
I could not imagine anything that I said or did that could have been mistaken for sexual harassment.
He spoke about women having sex with animals and films showing group sex.
I think Anita Hill drove the Year of the Woman. An all-male Judiciary Committee questioned her in a very unseemly manner. That fueled something.
We need to look at it. Here is Judge Thomas, who was in charge of the agency that was supposed to enforce the rules surrounding sexual harassment.
I walked away from that hearing convicted in the determination that I was going to get women on that committee. And so after the election, Diane was elected, Carol Moseley Braun. I called Diane.
And he said, "Look, we have just been through this. We need to change the image of the Judiciary Committee. Would you consider going on it?" And I thought for a moment, and I said yes. And I've been on that committee ever since.
She's not just a member of the committee. She's become a major force on the committee. And I miss Carol Moseley Braun. She wasn't reelected. But Carol was, it radicalized the way people looked at things.
Let me say that I think diversity, as the Supreme Court found in its decisions, diversity serves the entire community. Why? Because it gives you the benefit of having the experiences of people from all over the world as reflected in this room.
When I was going to law school, one of my male classmates walked up to me and said in tones that can only be described as moral outrage, "Elizabeth, what are you doing here? What are you doing in this law school? Don't you realize there are men who'd give their right arm to be here?"
As I grew up, that was not something that was contemplated. In 1958, when I finished Duke, my parents came for a visit, and I said, I've decided that I want to go to law school. My mother said, "Well, if this is what you want to do, we'll support you. That's not what we would recommend, but it's your life. It's your little red wagon."
I remember back in Stanford, now the student body was 2/3 male, 1/3 female. And I did a little poll because I wanted to run for student body president. And they would not elect a woman. It became very clear. A frog, yes. A dog, yes, but not a woman. San Francisco in the 70s still had remnants of the generation of flower children. It was a
a kind of creative, chaotic time, protests for the Vietnam War, a young gay population. So it was a very, very diverse city, and it was a very hard city to run. And then the worst happened. Dan White, one of my colleagues, had a major falling out with the mayor, George Moscone, and the first openly gay public official in America, Harvey Milk. Dan took a service revolver, cleaned it one evening, loaded it, came in through the basement of City Hall, went in to see the mayor. They were in the back office, shot him 5 times, came across City Hall, reloaded, and he whipped by me, and I said, Dan, wait a minute. And he kept going. I heard a door slam. I heard shots. Everything was suddenly still. I went down the hallway, opened the door, saw Harvey on his stomach, tried to get a pulse, put my fingers through a bullet hole, and it was very clear he was dead.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
It's interesting for me to look back at it because I see myself in shock, essentially functioning, but in real physical shock.
The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
And that was a saga that, till very recently, as a matter of fact, it's interesting, only one other time have I gone through this. Dan was convicted. Everyone thought it would be murder 1. It was voluntary manslaughter. And that set off a huge riot. And the hatred in the city. The hatred was palpable. So my job was to try to bring a city, hopefully, back into mainstream America. And that's where I really became a centrist, because this was a city that was split so wildly that the only place to run the city was from the center of the political spectrum.
When I travel around New York, people talk to me about gas prices. They talk to me about the rising cost of college tuition. They talk to me about the cost of health care, the prescription drug costs for their mother, father, or grandparents. They talk to me about the issues that are affecting them on a day-to-day basis.
Good paying, middle-class jobs.
Revamp our intelligence agencies.
Caring for our veterans.
Pension reform.
Immigration, the war on terror.
The pay raises and so on is an area that's very important to me on the Armed Services Committee.
We were talking about the very kinds of issues you sit around a table and talk to your family and your friends about.
My mother is usually at home and my father's at work, so he doesn't know what's going on at home. So
We bring the voice of American families to the United States Senate, but not at the macro economic level, but at the macaroni and cheese level.
Senator Barbara Murkowski brought us into her office and helped us understand why appropriations are important, why the budget's important, what we need to do to be successful.
Well, being the dean means I'm the most senior woman in the United States Senate, and I play a role of kind of the coach for the new senators coming in, the coordinator, bringing the women together on a bipartisan basis so that we can work together on issues. We don't have a caucus, but we kind of have a circle of friendship and solidarity.
Instinctively, and we don't anymore, which is kind of interesting, we would wear a lot of red. And so there's 7 women, and so when we'd come to the floor of the Senate, on a few days, and it wasn't planned, everybody had on a red coat, and the men would say, "What's going on? Look at all of them in red. What are they plotting now?" We weren't plotting. We were just kind of, I think, in a way, reinforcing each other.
We don't allow ideological differences to poison the personal relationships.
Women have better social skills most of the time.
Most of the time.
You know, when we get together for our regular monthly dinners, it's about friendship, it's about fellowship, it's about support, We talk about girly things, and at the same time, very serious issues.
They have a lot of things to worry about because there's a lot of things happening in our world today.
We see every issue as a woman's issue, and therefore we're so proud of the fact that Senator Feinstein, Olympia Stowe, and I are on the Intelligence Committee. Others are on the Armed Services Committee. We now are on the Finance Committee, not only setting tax policy, but focusing on issues like Medicare and Social Security.
Good luck with the bill. Thank you. Go get them.
I think as we became members of committees and began working on legislation, they recognized that we were good voices to have here.
The good news about the women in the Senate as well, by the way, is they get together. They get together and cross party lines like we used to here.
I got involved in transportation way back when I was in my state legislature, and I saw this as an important policy for women because it impacts everything we're able to do to get to work, to get home and get groceries, and to be able to get our kids. And now I'm the top Democrat on the Transportation Appropriations Committee, and I realize that transportation funding helps bring about economic development. When you put in a new road and new businesses come in and are developed, it helps the women in those communities.
I actually have a degree in biology and had thought I wanted to go into the medical sciences. But I'd kind of burnt myself out in college and lab courses, so I came to Washington to work. And I fell in love with my government. I fell in love with my country. And I made the outrageous decision to run against a 24-year incumbent in a Democratic primary as a young single woman.
Being in business, it was a great experience, and it taught me a lot. I use that in the United States Senate and the decisions that we make, and I guess it makes me feel very comfortable in digging in on the details. What my parents instilled in me was really that if you want to have an impact and you want to change things, then you have to be involved.
I think women are making a difference in politics. The more women who are involved in politics, the more likely it is, according to much of the research I've seen as well as my own experience, that issues related to children, healthcare, education will have more support, will be higher up on the agenda of whatever governmental body is considering these issues. I always admired Eleanor Roosevelt because even though she didn't run for political office herself, she was in politics, which I think is an important point to make. You don't have to be an office holder or even run for office to be part of the political process. It was a tremendous honor for me to be First Lady. There is nothing like that position, and it is a position, it's not a job. So it really is up to each woman who's been in that position, going back to Martha Washington, to define it for herself.
Hillary Clinton, she's gonna run for president for the 2008 election. We still won't be able to vote.
Yeah, I think a woman did run for president in the United States.
I'll pave the way for you.
All right, thank you.
I think in your lifetime you will see a woman president of the United States. I think we're definitely have been moving in that direction for some time. I left the Red Cross January 15th of '99. That's just too late to mount a campaign, but I think it moved the ball down the road for women.
When I was growing up, there were colleges I couldn't apply to, scholarships I couldn't have been eligible for, jobs that nobody would have hired a woman for.
No one can really truly appreciate where we were just 20 years ago. I mean, child support enforcement was, a woman's problem. We didn't have child care. We didn't have family medical leave. And if you think about the list of benefits and rights that exist today that weren't there just, 20 years ago. Mr. Chairman, I've been a longtime supporter and stalwart of Title IX. In fact, I introduced the first resolution in the House of Representatives for National Women and Girls Sports Day. Title IX, I think, is one of the most celebrated achievements on behalf of women because it really opened the doors, allowing girls and women to participate in sports and achieving equal opportunities.
Title IX says if a university is going to accept federal money, then you got to treat women athletes the same way you treat male athletes.
We've seen how boys and men have excelled because they've been able to develop the competitive spirit, knowing the sense of team cooperation, the skills and the dedication that comes from that competition. And those are all traits and qualities that ultimately can help to enhance a successful life.
Matt, is your mom a good skier?
Well,
Kinda.
I race in the Masters.
Twice?
Like twice, maybe. How many moms do you know that go helicopter skiing?
If you didn't scream so much, it would be better.
How do you get to be a senator?
I don't. Do they vote for you? Or? Probably think some of the senators are handpicked by the president.
If you get elected, you have to convince them that you can do a good job as a senator.
It was hugely controversial when I decided to run in 1972. There were letters to the editor that I was abandoning my children.
In 1972, there was an election for the Board of Supervisors. At that time, the incumbent was a male, married, 2 kids, stockbroker. And the discussion was who would run against him. And the considerations were myself or Barbara. And when we explored everything, the consensus was that Barbara should run because she was different than the incumbent.
The situation was grotesque because here I had 2 kids, they were little. My job as a supervisor was a part-time job, 7 minutes from my house. My opponent had a full-time job in addition to being a supervisor. His wife had a full-time job and he had 2 kids. No one ever wrote letters about his family.
And we felt that the differences would make the difference in the election. Consequently, she started a political career and I ended a political career.
Actually, I love campaigning. Not to say that the campaigns are easy, they're not. They can be unpredictable and difficult, but I love the ability to get out on the campaign trail and talk to people, because I love people, and that's one part of the reason I'm in politics, because it's fun to talk to people.
Hey, how are you?
The campaign trail gives you the opportunity not only to meet people and to get energized, but also to get focused on what really matters. That's the key to ultimately what we address here.
The campaign's going great. I love campaigns. I love to go around and talk about what we've done and what we're going to be doing.
We do have to secure our borders. As we welcome legal immigration, we have to stop illegal immigration.
You tell them hi. People elect those that they think will best represent them. Women have been successful showing the people they have the right ideas and they are tough enough to do the job. I feel like in Texas, they don't think of me as their woman senator. They think of me as their senator.
We are making a huge difference as Republicans.
Hey, how are you?
We may disagree on a few issues, but we are together on the things that count.
Bye-bye.
So every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. These 2 years of campaigns and fundraising are what insiders call being in cycle.
And so here I am before you as a United States Senator for just a few reasons.
This is my last fundraiser. I know you're so happy. You will not get any more invitations. And so we're wrapping it up with this superstar. With her help and with your help, I'm going to stay in the United States Senate. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Alanis Morissette. Let's give her a real warm welcome. Thank you, Alanis.
I am the wisest woman you've ever met. I am the kindest soul with whom you've connected.
In every campaign I've ever been in, there's always a point where I'm way down in the polls. And I always believe that people want to see, how you are in a crisis. Are you going to give up? Are you going to change your position? Are you going to change who you are? Or are you going to just continue to make the case and not lose heart? It's all part of what I call political hazing.
I think they want people with the courage of their convictions, and that's what I call courageous conservatism, and that's what I'm bringing to the table.
There's a lot of fundraising that has to be involved along the way, and then a lot of travel. I'll be in Nevada just in a few days, and then I'll be going on to California. Raising money is a part of taking an interest in the political process. That's our responsibility in the political process.
It seems like you spend a lot of time fundraising.
Well, you do when you're in cycle, and I'm obviously in cycle.
They're supposed to beat us. That's their job. We're supposed to be smart enough to beat them. That's our job. One reason I like her is behind this meek, pretty little, oh, I'm just a little housewife going back and forth to my school, taking care of my kids, is the heart of a lion. And that's what we need more of in the Democratic Party.
During a presidential election year, one of the duties of a sitting senator is to be a delegate to her party's political convention. In 2004, the Democratic Convention in Boston, Massachusetts paid special tribute to its 9 women senators.
Somebody calling Mom! Mom? Oh, she's calling me from backstage. Hi, Mom!
At the Democratic Convention up in Boston, the women senators were asked to come together up on the podium while Barbara Murkowski spoke.
Hi, how are ya?
Each senator had their entourage in force, chief of staff, press person.
What's their deal?
Because they were very concerned about who's going to go first. Oh, that's awesome.
I thought that was stupid.
The rehearsal at the convention with the women senators was pretty typical. There was this guy. His job was to kind of wrangle the women.
This is Lance Simmons. We're waiting.
I mean, it was like herding cats, with all the different women coming over and their entourages needing attention. It's always a scene.
This is where we're going to meet at 7 o'clock tonight. Okay, everyone. Senators, particularly.
Presentation by the dean.
Here's the drill. For those who did not hear. Okay.
Senators here to have an absolutely united Democratic Party. It's very important. Because it reminds me of California.
Okay, Senator. And we'll get Senator Boxer in 1 second. Okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
1 senator plus 2 people allowed backstage. Secret Service, no exceptions.
I think over the last decade in particular, women have really come into their own in terms of integrating what has typically been known as masculine qualities. So there are more women that are empowered as well as vulnerable. There are more women that are aggressive as well as passive. There's more of a balance that has enabled women to step up and step into positions of power and leadership in a way that helps them feel both comfortable in this power, but also able to be vulnerable and speak from their heart and their spirit.
Senator Hillary Clinton of New York. Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. And the pioneer who helped open the door these women walked through, Barbara Murkowski of Maryland.
Thank you. Thank you. We all thank you. There are 9 Democratic women in the Senate. And guess what? We're here to stay, and even more are coming. For us, it's not about gender, it's about an agenda.
Then I would like to see the list.
Okay, actually, I think Amy has the list.
Okay, I would like to see it.
Okay.
Whenever a senator's up for election, they face the task of doing both the work as a sitting senator and as someone working to be elected.
And then
it's time management, it's splitting time between here and the state. She travels home almost every weekend to Alaska. She's spending 10 hours, 12 hours traveling.
Senator Murkowski this past weekend was at the Chamai Festival in Bethel, and when they got to the village, the entire village, due to permafrost, is built on stilts.
70% of Alaska's towns and villages are accessible only by airplane or by boat. It's a lack of access that most of the United States doesn't face.
They're having this large festival where thousands of people come to Bethel. People were coming up to her and asking for her autograph. She had been there in August, and so all the elders, and especially the older women in the village, were coming up to her and handing her gifts, and really just so thrilled to see her and see that she's taken the time to come back to their village.
Excuse me. You bet.
If you like to travel, this is a great job. Senators travel back and forth to their home states and also attend meetings and conferences across America.
Thank you, darling.
See you. You doing okay? Good. It's chilly up here.
It is chilly.
There was a little snow. Okay. Good morning to everyone. We are so glad that you are here. Delighted to have the opportunity to have this conversation. Now, to all the gentlemen in the room, we love you dearly, and we know you love us back. But the fact is, we women live longer than you do. That's a national average. It's actually a worldwide average, which means these programs are vital to women. Oh, me.
A senator has obligations in her home state as well as Washington. That comes out to a whole lot of traveling, which comes out to a whole lot of being away from home.
Why don't you turn the GameCube off and practice your piano for a little while, okay? Can you do that for me? Good, I appreciate that. Well, does it feel like you're sick to your stomach? Does it still hurt? Okay. Well, Daddy will be home in just a little bit, probably, so he can kind of help you with that if you need to take something.
Well, women are better at multitasking, from what I've heard, and so I think that, I think that would make it easier for a woman senator to get more done.
I watched my mom go from Wonder Woman to Super Wonder Woman. She works 9 to 5, 4 or 5 days a week in Washington, and then jumps on a plane back to California and goes right to work again. We're talking about maybe having 1 day off in 3 weeks on a Sunday occasionally.
Close, you guys. No.
Careful.
You guys, this is where you go. Over there, and this is where I go. Over here. Okay, is everybody set? I won't start until you're set. I'm pleased to be here at Scripps Ranch. The Healthy Forest Act passed, and I voted for it because it's a good step forward, but it was far from perfect.
Then, when my mom comes home at night, a little manila package gets dropped off against the door, full of homework for her. The work never seems to end, and it requires a ton of energy.
This is our Republican State Convention. We have it every other year. We elect our party officers, the chairman and vice chairman of the party. It's when we elect the delegates for the State Republican Executive Committee. So you do the party business, and then you also hope to rev up the troops for the election in the fall.
They come here, and it is rah-rah time. You know, we realize who we're going after, and it's the other party. Let's get unified, let's get our message, let's take it back out to the state and try to win November.
It's like a sprint, you know? I mean, there's a goal. It's long hours, and you don't have a life, but it's so worth it in the end because, you know, it's fun. And you get to meet these great people. We've met so many people just here at the convention that I'm sure we'll all be friends forever.
So tomorrow what you'll do is you'll go around, it's on the opposite side of the ballroom on this same floor.
I'm the campaign manager. Got to be involved with getting the floor ready, getting their speech ready, getting the video ready, getting our collateral materials out, making sure that the 11,000 people that are coming to the convention get a little piece of Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. instead of her speaking at 5:15, she may not be speaking until 6 o'clock here. And then Senator Hutchison involved with every aspect of the campaign, and she signs off on everything. She likes to personalize every thank you note that she signs is from her. Yes, ma'am. And she wants everybody to feel like that she's their senator and that she's listening and she's reading, and the only way that you can do that is to actually listen and read everything.
I always think of something that my mentor, Ann Armstrong, said, "The cock croweth, but the hen layeth the golden egg." You know, we deliver, we produce. It's true.
For centuries, we've been able to handle some things that men haven't.
Like, when men go off to work, they don't have to deal with the kids fighting or not having enough food in the house and having to go shopping.
That's kind of like being a senator, but in your house.
Yeah.
Texas Republicans, please welcome the Honorable Kay Bailey Hutchison and her husband, former chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, Ray Hutchison.
Thank you. It is great to be home in Texas. The fact is, the strong economy is improving Americans' lives. We are hunting down the terrorists who attacked our nation, and we're taking the war to them, and we will never give up the fight for freedom. That's the difference Republicans make.
Women have to run. Frankly, I'm not so sure that it would matter to America as long as that person is qualified, and I think that that individual is, you know, ideal for that moment in time.
It was very difficult to come back and try to describe the devastation that I had left.
I've joined with Women of the Storm and other groups to bring every member of Congress down until they've seen it for themselves.
Oh my God.
The breach is over this way? Okay. Do y'all feel like walking up on the levee and come and just kind of come see?
We didn't get devastated by hurricanes. We got devastated by a mass flood that was caused by a complete collapse of the federal levee system that's protected this city for over 200 years. These were federal levee systems that breached in about 19 places. 1,200 people died in this flood. 1,200 Americans drowned, either in their attics or on their roofs. I mean, think about that. In America. And they come back, virtually no insurance, and a federal government that can only give them, seemingly, in this administration, 165 words out of a State of the Union speech. South Louisiana has generated for the federal treasury about $150 billion from taxes on oil and gas revenues off the shores of Louisiana. If we had just used a few percentage points of that over time, these levees never would have broken.
Sometimes men just think straightforward, just like the present and not the future. And I think women think more of the future than the present.
We're going to extend an 8-inch slab out. So now if the water does come over the wall, it's hitting on the concrete here.
We're spending $4.5 billion a month to fix Iraq. You'd think we could spend $2 billion a year to fix America's only energy coast.
I can just barely see it.
Yeah, you can get off on it.
Got it? Well, I don't know. I can't see it.
And what our delegation's been trying to say, and I think what Democrats have been trying to say, is that the focus overseas and not at home is wrong and inappropriate. Now, where would you start? I mean, it's not like you could just sort of come back and your neighborhood's kind of intact, but your house is damaged, so you can just start repairing your house and getting back. Your church has been washed away, your school has been washed away, Your
there's
grocery
no place,
store.
your grocery store is gone.
Being in a conference room and listening to people speak is very different than walking through these neighborhoods and talking to people and seeing their businesses and houses. And we've got to get more members down, more administration officials down to walk these neighborhoods and see what's happening in America.
You know, your heart goes out to the people who are left without a home, without a neighborhood, split from their family.
These people aren't asking for all of the value of their homes back. Nobody expects the federal government to come write them a check, you know, for $400,000 or $300,000, but for God's sake, we got to come up with some plan to help them. You see Mary Landrieu, put her in a straitjacket.
As a senator, she is very, very devoted to Arkansas. I think Blanche sees Arkansas as her extended family.
It's always a pleasure to have all these heavyweights all looking good, and this next lady is really not a heavyweight, but she really carries a big stick. And so it's our pleasure today to have in Pickett, Arkansas, your United States Senator, Blanche Lincoln.
Well, good morning to folks in Pickett, and happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July to Randolph County. It is great to be here. Our children don't get the best education, and they're not equipped with the skills they need to be the future.
I represent a state where over 50% of the people have an adjusted gross income of less than $25,000. These people are raising their families, and they're trying to instill in their children good ethics, good values, a good dinner at night, keeping them in school. And when my colleagues across the aisle look at me and say these people don't count, I got a problem with it.
Maybe it goes back to the home instinct, the care for the home, the state becomes the home. So I think people recognize that. So increasingly, if they look at a candidate, can this candidate take care of me and my interests, which are generally local interests? Women have a very good chance today of being elected.
Can a woman senator be a mother?
I think she could if she can manage her time well.
But it would just be a little bit harder on them because they'd have to worry about both helping the state and taking care of their child and their family.
When it came to the kids, it was really important to know that their life was going to be disturbed as little as possible. And I had some very strict parameters when it came to the campaign. I didn't care what point we were, how close to the primary we were, how close to the general we were. Sundays were mine. They were my family day.
Hey, boys. Dinner, come on down.
And I think that kind of left a level of sanity in the family, which was important for the kids. And I tried to do as much with them in their schools and their sports to let them know that what they were doing was just as important as what I was doing.
Go, go, go! Bennett, go! Great hit, Bennett!
You might be up pretty soon.
No, I'm the first
We get the bases loaded, we can get some runs in here, man. We can tie the game.
My name is Stephen Bennett Lincoln.
What's it like to have a mom for a senator?
Well, busy.
Boys, Reece, you have your shoes on? Come on.
Yes! I have my shoes on.
Huh?
I have my shoes on.
All right, we need some lunch money for you guys. Can I borrow $2 from you? Let's go.
Water on the ground.
Hey. No, good girl. I got you something. Come on.
Be a good girl.
Amen. Thanks for a good day. Amen.
And Matt's the only one that I know of that can do that all in one breath.
Amen.
The worst thing is having to leave Alaska.
That's true.
That's home.
Our boys are 12 and 14. They will describe themselves as being at the height of their downhill ski racing career when they were yanked back to Washington, D.C. So this has been a tough adjustment this winter here in Washington where it's been so warm.
What are your sports, Nick?
Soccer,
What else?
lacrosse.
What about winter?
No skiing? Don't do that anymore. Because we had to move.
The move made so much sense for us as a family because I was working here in Washington during the week. I would travel to Alaska on Friday. It's a 10 to 12 hour trip. I would spend Saturday and Sunday in Alaska and then fly back on Monday. It didn't give our family the quality of time that we needed. So now we're all back here in Washington, D.C., and as I say, we eat dinner together, we have breakfast together, and I can monitor what's going on in everyone's life.
I could never have run for the U.S. Senate at the age that she was. It just was not even in the cards. Okay, Marcia, you want some coffee? I've always felt that women needed to have a voice on the front line, whether it be politically or in the church or in the civic world or the business world. I've always thought that women's viewpoints and perspectives were a lost resource to our country. So I'm tickled to death and very, very proud of what Mary's doing in Washington.
I've always thought, since they've been early children, that the girls ought to be able to do what the boys did if they chose to do it. And that was athletics and any program they wanted to get into. But I think most fathers will tell you there's a protective nature in a father that comes out with respect to daughters that does not necessarily evidence itself with the sons. I mean, you love them equally. But when your son falls down, you inclined to say, "Get up, son. You know, brush yourself off." When your daughter falls down, a little girl, you want to go pick her up. And knowing full well, of course, that the girls are just as tough as the boys.
Do they come to you for advice?
No.
Yes.
Oh,
No.
Mother, we do. We always ask for advice. They don't always follow it, though. You understand?
That's true. We ask it. We don't always follow it, but we do ask it.
Absolutely.
Okay, here it is.
This is part of the household chores. I'm actually preparing this for my wife, who will come home from work tired and hungry. I'm very supportive. I really don't participate in the political aspects of the career. So I do everything else that assists her in things other than political things. When she's down, I try and pick her up. Notice the technique. Now, the first year of law school, they taught us how to cut a cantaloupe. We both grew up in Brooklyn, Barbara and I. It was an American dream, but certainly at the time we met and fell in love and got married, I don't think there was any indication that either one of us would be in the United States Senate.
Interviews, I'm going to go right back up as soon as I'm done.
When you get a day to spend with the spouse, it should be treasured and valued, and we try and make a habit of spending every weekend together.
The demands are enormous, and my husband understands that because obviously he experienced the same responsibilities both as a member of Congress and also as governor. When he was a governor and I was a member of Congress and we were married, we'd say our quality time together was listening to one another's speeches. Now he gets the short end of the stick, that he's no longer in politics, so he attends some of the events with me and he listens to my speeches, tells me to keep them short.
I think the two careers moving along together, it's really enriched our marriage. You know, there's so much to share, and the only thing is life gets a little hectic. It limits the time right now with Senate as busy as it is that you really can't take a lot of time for vacations or things of that sort. That'll come later.
I will tell you that I couldn't do what I do without a great, supportive, wonderful husband who is a former member.
Well, my husband, of course, was the Republican Party state chairman. And so he certainly has been a part of my political life. He was in the state legislature. That's where we met. So he has always been part of my political life. The children don't get it yet. We take them everywhere because that's how we are with them. They love to get to go to a hotel and spend the night, and so it's fun.
How are you? Good to see you again.
I think it would be very difficult to be in politics without a supportive family. I think it's harder and harder in our country, at least, to be in public life.
It can be challenging at times. I am a physician and I'm in a busy practice, but like many families in the United States that have both parents working, you just make it happen. We certainly are both actively involved in raising the kids. We're not always there together, but at least one of us is.
Lucky for me, my parents work the graveyard shift, so all day I can see them, and then when I go to sleep, they work. So it all works out for the both of us.
We're there really to help her recharge her batteries.
Well, that's just what my opponents say, but
My job is to put a smile back on my mom's face and to hug her and, you know, bring my son into the room and just act like fools so that she can get back to laughing and being good-spirited and ready to go back out on the trail again.
See ya. It's a marathon is what it is. So you just keep enough till the very end.
does anyone know how close
Pennsylvania's, but there's hardly any votes counted. My husband and I, we have a tradition of just getting away from it all right after for a few days. In both of those occasions, I said, honey, if I don't say too much, don't take it personally. I can't even talk. People in elected life have to have an enormous amount of energy. When you think of a campaign on top of your job, on top of your family, on top of your friends, between all those things, not everything's going to go right. You know, you're going to have some horrible newspaper article over here you have to deal with. You have a fundraiser over here that's falling apart. You have, you know, a member of your family's just lost their job or just had a horrible day. And, you know, you're still the mom. So you just have to deal with everything. If you're the type of person that just needs to have one focus, don't do this work, because it's never that clean. It's just always 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 things.
I don't know that there is such thing as a typical day, and I'm sure that everyone will tell you that. But in the Senate, it is complicated at best. I start out the day with a very nice, neat schedule. And if I were to compare that written schedule with what actually happened at the end of the day, there's nothing sacred with that schedule. So you just try to do the best that you can. Hey, can you do me a favor and call Sherry in Ketchikan?
They really spend a lot of time in an office working on many things.
I've been conditioned to think of emergencies as imminent. People are going to die tomorrow things. This really is an emergency because the school is 200% of capacity, so half the kids do not have adequate classroom space.
It would be nice to know that Alaska gets this much of the pie, and then we've got the ability within the program, because otherwise it makes it really tough for our schools.
I don't think it takes the whole day, but I also don't think it's just this really short job. I think being a senator probably takes about 2/3 of your day.
So tell me what this is. Tell me what.
Okay.
I usually get up at 6 in the morning. I do regular radio calls to drive time radio every day. So I'm usually doing 2 or 3 radio calls in the morning on issues of the day. I love talk radio because you can be talking to people about what you're doing and still in your bathrobe.
Like house restoration.
My day is running, and it's not figuratively running. It's frequently running. And the biggest challenge is to fit everything in a day that people ask me to do, that I want to do, that I need to do. It's hard to explain all the different demands, particularly in a large state where many people are coming in here. There are many, many different issues, but I also want to be at events back home all the time. I love it, but it's just budgeting of your time back and forth. I think that's the biggest challenge, I think.
Speaking of budgeting of time.
Yes.
If you don't control your schedule, it will control you.
Would you like to take a photograph?
Yeah,
We'd love to.
Official photo
Love to.
right under the
Okay.
flag, if I could get you by the window.
No one issue can be to the exclusion of another. If they happen to be all major issues, then you basically have to grapple with that each and every day and how best to go about it. What legislation can help, or what kind of partnership you can create with your colleagues in order to solve it.
This is a weekly meeting. It's a group of 10 to 15 senators who meet on a weekly basis to talk about what's coming up for the week, what's going to be on the floor, what kind of amendments are going to be offered, what kind of press conferences, reactions to what the administration may be doing on a particular issue, and that sort of thing.
Because there's a limited amount of time, you have to set priorities based on what is most important to the people's lives. That's why right now I'm very focused on healthcare. It's all healthcare. It is all about healthcare. We're spending twice as much of our gross national product on healthcare as any other country. We're spending twice as much. 46 million people with no health insurance and counting. There is something desperately wrong with this picture.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful, yeah. Where is the list of groups that either support us or oppose him?
I can get you the
I got
opposed.
'em.
I have it.
Yeah, let's get the opposed.
We're gonna have a big moderate press conference today, but it just kind of everybody's schedules were terrible. So
My God, these are the people that oppose it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Is that the one I gave you yesterday?
Yeah.
The most recent?
yeah,
Okay.
they're trying to say, Lincoln Durbin had this big expensive bill, it's going to create a new bureaucracy.
Some comparisons. $55 billion over 10 years compared to HSAs or the amount of money we've spent in Iraq. And if you look at the amount of money it saves us.
Really good point.
What we're going to do, we're going to go to Durbin's office at 321.
I don't have a problem with Durbin being the front runner. That doesn't bother me at all. If we were able to get something like this done, oh my God, that's so much bigger and better than who gets credit.
Okay.
Women compromise more,
Yeah.
I found. Because women can use both sides of their brains, they can talk and have feelings at the same time. So they will probably be thinking about how can we make this world a better place.
Senator from Arkansas.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Durbin and myself have been working for several years to come up with what we believe is a better health care plan for America's small businesses. And it's the one that we ourselves use. So I'm here to ask that question. Why don't we try to give small businesses access to that same type of private health insurance options that members of Congress and federal employees enjoy today?
It is a wonderful part of being a United States Senator that you're able to get involved in so many different issues. As chairman, I'm responsible for leading the Senate on a lot of those issues, ranging from education and healthcare to homeland security and national defense, and doing effective oversight of the executive branch, as we're doing right now with Hurricane Katrina, and a host of different issues.
Right now, we have to be tough on these oil companies. I call on the president to use the bully pulpit of the White House to force the oil companies to care about America's families, even if it isn't their natural instinct. The Attorney General stopped Shell Oil from shutting down a refinery. Why do they want to shut it down? Why did they lie and say there were no buyers? They want to control the supply. We had the head of Shell Oil. He came before the Commerce Committee and he lied. He said, we were so happy to sell that refinery. No, they weren't. I have the letters to me. They wanted to shut it down.
Okay, where are we headed? We're going back for our debriefing if you're ready for that.
Well, I'm Mary Landrieu. Who are y'all waiting for? Are y'all from Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
Thanks.
There are lots of important things going on in the world. About that war in Iraq. We've got to focus on that.
My dad has to go.
Your dad's going? Is he going soon?
In December.
December? Well, we're going to be praying for him and doing everything we can to get him over there and get him back safely.
That's part of a day of the senator. In between all of your scheduled meetings, you have thousands of children that just kind of stop in your office. It's so hard to, kind of juggle and keep up with official duties and also keep up with important duties, which that is one of them.
Okay, if y'all want to come in the office. She's running behind, and these are usually just kind of drop-in meetings.
Good
to see you. They'll chat for a little bit, and then she'll come out. She's got one more meeting, and then we'll have the 11:45.
Fight hard for you every step of the way.
Well, we appreciate your support.
15 minutes. She's going on to the meeting that the senator will be late to.
How you doing, Orla? Good to see you.
Perhaps there's a process that Daschle and Frisk could agree upon to get this closure.
Senator Landrieu was elected to the Louisiana House of Representatives when she was 23.
Watching the returns and feeling great.
She was then the youngest woman ever to serve in the Louisiana House. So she's essentially been in politics since she was 23. Her thinking was that she just wanted to help people. And ultimately, this is, the path that she ended up taking.
So you would actually still love Mom if she lost?
Yeah, interesting question. I don't think winning or losing will determine our feelings towards one another.
Thank you, friends. Thank you so much.
I am looking forward to going back for a third term as your United States Senator.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know me. I will never forget who I fight for. I will reach out across party lines. I will reach out across philosophical lines and any other lines to get things done for you. I will work with everyone for that common goal. But I will never, ever, ever be afraid to stand alone if I have to protect my state or to protect my people or protect our environment.
Madam President,
Just Senator from Louisiana.
if I could just ask unanimous consent to speak 2 minutes on the...
On December 9th, 2006, the U.S. Senate passed by 79-9 the Domenici-Landrieu Energy Security Act.
To help us to secure the critical funds necessary to a project which was promised on the heels of Katrina.
When I think about the range of problems that America is facing today, I really can't think of a moment where we're facing so many major issues at the same time.
Stop the drugs, gangs, gang wars.
Helping families.
Healthcare for seniors.
Clean air, clean water.
What about global warming? I was gonna say that.
I would hope that a lot of young women would think about this challenge now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Think about the fact that we need to change the face of the United States Senate today.
I'd like more women to be senators.
I am the wisest woman you've ever met. I am the kindest soul with whom you've connected.